Today it's happening, and I got a funny man coming your way. Anuvab Pal. Anuvab, as somebody from Birmingham says, Anuvab. But Anuvab is a top guy. He's a comedian who I've been on the stand-up scene with for some time. I think I first came across him a few years ago. Clips of his comedy went big time viral because he was talking about colonial Britain and the British and the way they influenced India. And these clips are being shared around on everyone's phones. And that's when I first saw him. We worked together on the stage. He is one of, and I mean this, I'm not just saying this, he's one of the loveliest comedians. Comedians normally take the mick out of each other. Anuvab is just pure love, happiness, and good vibes. And he's so supportive to me and everybody around him. I think you're going to love him. I love him. Here's the brilliant Anuvab Pal. Kaise hain janab? Kaise hain aap? Oh, sorry, because they told me I had an Indian comedian on. I thought maybe I need to speak in Hindi. Namaste, Anuvab ji. Aap kaise hain?
हम लोग हिंदी में बात करते हैं. I haven't spoken in Hindi for a long time.
See,
So,
okay, so what do you're naturally English, aren't you? You just speak in English. That's your first language.
so here's the thing. This is really interesting. I speak in Bengali because I'm from a part of India that's not very Hindi speaking.
Right.
So Bengali is the language, but Hindi is the official language. And I've picked up a little bit of Punjabi. So just to survive in India as a human, not even a comedian, you need to speak 4 languages.
So is this you kind of becoming a bit of a chameleon to kind of just to fit in? Like, like me taking on the name Tommy that's my parents' way of saying, hey, just try and blend in as one of them. You call it, so you put on your Punjabi. So can you pass for like a Punjabi? How is your Punjabi? Because does your Punjabi sound a bit Bengali? Does it sound a bit Hindi-fied? Because it's character. It's character based, isn't it? You got to get into it.
It's hard. I remember taking trains to Punjab. I sometimes, for gigs, I like to see a bit of India because I live in India. And when I travel around India for gigs, I take trains and I'll as a Bengali, I'll go to Punjab or whatever. And it's a very different kind of Hindi. And I'll try Hindi basically.
Yeah.
So I'll be there, I'll say, chal raha hai, sab chal raha hai, and
what's that? That's Hindi, right? Chal raha hai, yeah, sab chal raha hai. Right? Everything's going well. It's all good, right?
It's all good. Chal raha hai. Show kitna baje hai? I'll ask Hindi questions, and then I'll be caught out. They'll be like, "You're enough. You don't speak any Punjabi, do you?" I said, "No, I don't speak anything." So it's very tricky. I try to blend in. Well, because I think, India is one country. I should be able to speak all the languages. When I go to South India, I should be able to throw in a few words in Malayali. It's hard. It's very hard. I'm rubbish.
No, but being a performer, I just think you got to get into character. That's what it is. So Punjabi, you got to become the Punjabi. So if you go, was your chal raha hai? Was that Hindi or Punjabi? Because that sounds like Hindi.
It was just Hindi. It was just rubbish Hindi.
So give me your Punjabi. Sorry, I feel like I'm putting you on a casting sort of couch here, but like, how would you do like a how are you, kiddan theek hai kind of thing?
That's that's what I do. Like I'll need a question. Like say I'm checking into a hotel in Chandigarh.
Sorry, I just love you and Anuvab. This is what I love. Hold on. I can't just get into character. I need a question. Lead me in, Tommy. Lead me in. This is like our stand-up shows. I'm warming up for Anuvab. Okay, it's good. It's okay. So,
or we're shooting a film starring you, and we've just landed in Chandigarh. We're about to check in.
Okay, and I'll go, "Oh, Paji, tusi theek ho?
Chal raha hai, sab changa hai."
You can't go Hindi. I love it. It's a standard default line. Just sab kuch chal raha hai. Like, mate, all right.
I tried sab changa hai, which I don't think is correct, right?
No, sab changa. It's just too formal. It's rough. Punjabi, you got to get into the character. Punjabis are free. I always, when I'm talking to Western people, I always say that we're like the Irish. Punjabis are like the Irish, where we'll take the mick out of you. We could fight you. We could drink with you. We would party with you. But if we love you, then you got us forever. Like you got our heart. So it's all very raw and exposed. I think the language is like that as well. So it's more like, okay, da, it's like, it's a bit of flavor. And, when I'm meeting the boys, you go in like that because you want to stamp that it's quite alpha, isn't it? It's quite, no one, there's no subdued Punjabi. You get aunties like that.
But that's what I love about the culture is it's a very open culture. Like as Bengalis, we think too much. Because we're writing, we're reading, we're supposed to be an intellectual people. We overthink everything. With
Yeah.
Punjabi, it's like, you have a friend with a big truck. He's going to show up with an SUV and he's going to be like, we're going out, we're partying. And,
Yeah.
and he'll stand by you, whatever happens. We might end up at the end of the night burning down a nightclub, but you don't know. It's
Exactly.
just out there. It's all out there. It's love, it's words. There's no like layers of cheating, nothing.
There's no
And
filter. No filters. It's just
I'm
they
very
are.
fond of that. But the difficulty is, I think a real challenge would be, can you go around India and speak all the languages? Like, if a true Indian comedian should be able to gig in Gujarati, Bengali, Punjabi, Sindhi.
Should they be? Should you be able to do it in different? Because I'm thinking, even like, scaling it down in a UK level, a UK comedian wouldn't do a set in Welsh, wouldn't do a set in, it's just like, but then that's I suppose that's that kind of confidence, arrogance of the main language where you'll go, well, everyone will understand English, they've kind of got to. But I mean, you've gigged all over the UK. So just to point out, for me and Anuvab, we did a show together 3 days ago. Great show, though, right? I mean, I know we're great, obviously, but I was buzzing after that show, as you know, because I was talking to you at 100 miles an hour on the train on the way home. But just, isn't it amazing how a crowd makes the night? It's not really us. It's not it. They were great. You could feel a warmth in the room, a noise, a bubble. How would you describe that when you go into a good room and you already know it's a good room?
I mean, look, Tommy, you've done hundreds and hundreds of shows around the world, and you know that the room itself has an energy. It has a dynamic that can't be recreated. It didn't exist 5 minutes before, and it won't exist 5 minutes after. It's just it's an organism. It's a thing that's alive in that room. And sometimes the room is rubbish. It's not alive, and sometimes it is. And individually, if let's say, I think there was some 300, 400, 500 people there.
Yeah.
If we told those jokes to those people as they're walking out as individuals, it would not have had that impact. It's just that room, that time. It's like live sport. It's something you did at the top of the show that brought them alive. Some of them knew you. They were fans of yours. They had an Indian comedian. They had a comedian talking about cricket and Bollywood and Pakistan. So it was that night, that hour, just something sort of gels, which is why I don't know how it went for you in the pandemic, but there's no real substitute to live comedy.
No, you're right. And I did a couple online things, but I quickly said, no, never. I'm not doing that again. And then the second one I did because the money was good. But other than that, I said, I'm not doing it again. But it's not the same, because we live for interaction. And I think, I'm not saying, the pandemic's any worse for us poor comedians or people who are performers, but you're taking the drug away. You're taking the hit of people. Were you all right? Were you, because you write and you do so many other things. We'll come on to some of that in a minute. But so I think I first met you through stand-up, and then we had mutual friends, and then I kind of found out, I thought, oh, he writes as well, and I found out the films that you write for, and all the other things that you're doing. And
our big connection, was Bollywood, when you and I drove up to do a gig. And the whole time we were talking about movies we love and movies we hate, and all the stars you've met that.
But I use your name as an introduction to them, so it's okay. So you were my way in. Where are you, by the way? Because I just want to quickly say, hold on a minute. You look like you're in an Indian kind of colonial tea house, one of those kind of places. Look, there's big grand windows. The sunlight's flooding in behind you. It's almost kind of eclipsing you. Or this could be one of those interviews, when the victim doesn't want their face displayed because the light's so bright behind you. It's just silhouetting you.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm in a deportation outhouse. No, I'm kidding. So there's basically, this is a little sort of writing area that I have at this Airbnb that I rent, and the rest of the apartment is this side. But the difficulty of the writing area, the nice thing about it is that it's just wraparound windows. So I get this beautiful view of the garden while I'm trying to, write some film where Ritik Roshan is trying to fall off a train or something. But I have a beautiful view. But the rest of the time, I look like a murderer because there's all this light and my face is hidden. So for some reason, it looks like I don't want to show Tommy my face.
Sorry, just to go back, why does Ritik want to fall off the train?
Excellent question. I haven't thought through. I haven't thought through that yet. But there was a film called Dhoom 2 where he's trying to steal the crown jewels. There was an actual film where
Oh.
he steals it. For some reason, the crown jewels are going on a train in Namibia. And he's an international man of mystery and thief. I don't know if you've seen this film, Dhoom
No,
2.
I haven't.
But it's got Amir Khan in it. And he steals the Kohinoor and falls off a train.
Right.
So sadly, the scene has already been written. So I don't know what I'm doing in Willesden Green trying to write it, but yeah.
So okay, look at this. This is the life of a comedian, everybody. Okay, so you're India based. You live in India. Where exactly is that? Sorry, I don't need the door number, but I mean, like, where in India are you?
I live in Bandra, in Mumbai, which is a neighborhood that is. Well, for lack of a better term, they say it's filled with artists. It's supposed to be a hip neighborhood, which is reason to leave very quickly. But that's what they say our neighborhood is. A lot of the movie people live there, and I work as a scriptwriter and comedian.
What's the vibe like? Because when as soon as you say that, I think of like the kind of bohemian arty sort of places in New York that you might get, and funky people out in the street, and I can picture that. I can picture it with the New York setting. Where are the artists of Bandra? Because then obviously, I'll tell you straight. My memories of India are a little bit old school because they're dated either through film or and things I've seen on TV or stereotypes or what I saw when I was a kid. So I can't imagine a modern arty. I just can't imagine it right now because I haven't seen it. Well, what is it? Cafes, and is it all the things you've seen Western world? What's it like?
Exactly. It's all those things, Tommy. I mean, I want to say two things here. I live in India and I'm seeing all this, cafes and gelato shops and people lining up to see Shah Rukh Khan's house because he comes out and waves at people on Sunday. So there's all of that. Actually, I should describe it for your British listeners. It's I know that your sort of cool London is the little I'm learning. It's like Shoreditch where there's yoga, there's cafes. So Bandra is all of that, except our artists are not sort of up and coming struggling people. They are people like Abhishek Bachchan who's leaving in an SUV. So there isn't that walking culture, of sort of alternative artists who haven't quite made it. These are massive apartment buildings where the star lives on the top floor and goes out in his fancy car with bodyguards, and other people aspiring to be like that. So yeah, it isn't the vibe isn't grungy. The vibe is poor Dubai, if that is an example.
Okay, but well, that's all right. I'll take a poor Dubai. It's and do people, because then within those artist kind of scenes like that, people generally leave artists alone. Because it's like a respect. I remember, it's like I worked in LA for a few months, and Owen Wilson and Ben Stiller came into the little Mexican kind of. It was like a dubba, like equivalent, like where you'd get your pakore samosa and all that kind of. It wasn't nothing flash, but it was the Mexican equivalent of that. And they came in and they had food and lunch, but nobody went over. People saw that it was them, but they leave him alone. Would they leave Abhishek alone if he went in for a?
No. He would be dead by the end of if he stepped into say my barber is called Kings, and he charges 33 rupees for a haircut. I'm nearly sort of
is it done on the ratio of how much hair?
Of the cool people. So I don't even need a haircut, but I go to this guy Kings for 30 rupees and he gossips and stuff. And he gets, average people of Bandra, 30 rupees. It's not even a pound. Say if Abhishek Bachchan went there for a haircut, I'm thinking of an equivalent to a Mexican grungy place.
Yeah.
I think he'd leave like a month later because he'd be mobbed. Someone would be like, can you please put my son in school? Can you please name my child? Can I please move in with you? yeah, so stars don't actually go out, sadly, in India. They don't
No,
step out of their house. Um,
but they're
they
all around.
can't.
But so Bandra's a base. Bandra's your kind of, so you're in the kind of celebi scene because you write Bollywood. I was just going to say you write for Bollywood, which see, I took you for granted a little bit because we've had so many fun times. And then when I kind of know the films that you've done, I was going to quickly mention a couple. Like you did Hitchki, which is huge with Rani Mukherjee. But you've done many others as well before that. Do you want to just tell us a couple of them?
Bar Bar Dekho, Loins of Punjab, um, quite a series called Wakalat from Home. There's a whole bunch of them. I'm always, it's all on IMDb. I'm a little terrified of talking about them.
What? Because
Because I'll tell you why. Because Bollywood is such a religion where I come from, and also to some extent in this country, that when you meet someone who disliked it, they're always like, "Are you give me my money back?" They're always,
yeah,
you meet somebody, they're like, "That was rubbish. That was shit. That's the worst thing I've ever seen." And so
and
people take it very personally. I mean, I think it's okay to talk about this. Barba Dekho had Siddharth Malhotra, Katrina Kaif. I was one of the writers on it, and a lot of people loved it, but a lot of people didn't like some aspects of the story. But it was widely watched because it had a song called Kala Chashma and
cool, huge.
Saw Asman. It had lots of songs that we've talked about that I think you are an encyclopedic sort of have knowledge of music, so you know all these songs.
Yeah, yeah. I always had it because I'm a child. Whenever I was on the radio and I would have to introduce the song "Saw Ass Man," I would have a little chuckle at it because in English, if you translate those words, very different. So "Saw Ass Man" would make me giggle. But "Gala Chashma," I did a Christmas parody of it. Calling it Father Christmas. Oh, then Father Christmas, Chachadaye. It was ridiculous.
That's funny. That's very funny.
It worked. It did all right online. But those are huge. So yeah, I can see this was a big popular film. But I'm teeing this up because I think you're going to go right. So we've got Bar Bar Dekho, superstar films. Big superstars in the film, big songs, but there feels like a butt coming up, Anuvab.
Well, the story. The critics didn't love the story. They did, so I'd get I'd get a lot of shit from friends and family also, but also from the press. But also sometimes there was a review I remember GQ where they wrote a whole page about why the film didn't work.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this review didn't mention me. I got by okay. Then I turned the page and there's a whole empty page. And just on top, they've written, and a special word for comedian Anuvab Pal. What the hell is he doing writing films like this? And I was like, you could have left that out. That whole page.
we dealt with it. We dealt with it the page before.
It was done. It was done. Then another time I was on an airplane and this lady said, "What kind of films do you write?" Similar conversation. And I didn't want to get into it. I said, "Small independent films, auntie. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
And it said Khala Chashma. I said Barba Dekho at the end of it because she kept prodding me. And she said, "My God, that was so bad. I had to delay my hip operation."
What?
And then she gave me this sort of long story about how she went to the theater and she hurt herself because she wanted to leave but couldn't, and it was 3.5 hours long, and she hurt her hip and a hip operation got delayed. And the whole thing she kept telling me, and your Katrina Kaif and your Siddharth Malhotra delayed my hip operation. So it made it seem like something personal when clearly she was just going in a suburb of Delhi to watch it. So I just keep quiet. I just tell people, I'm a Bengali sort of wastrel. I don't do anything. Because you never know who you might. The other thing that happened in Punjab is I remember finishing a gig in Chandigarh and the opposite happened. A guy said he loved the movie so much. He said, "You got to come in Punjab." So he said, "You got to come to my house. You got to meet my family." And I was like, no, listen, I've just finished a gig. I need to go home. And he said, no. You don't know. I'm like a pretty important guy in this area. It was like a bit of a threat. He's like, you got to come to my house. So,
okay.
So then I went
that sounds like a kidnapping. Just so you know, in any other scenario.
I was kidnapped, Tommy. I was
Yeah,
kidnapped
but
by this
but but
man.
but by your own will. He did a Jedi mind trick of kidnapping by kind of making you feel that you need to go back to his house,
Yeah.
and it worked.
Yeah, it was a bit, there was a bit of a. I mean, he was with 3, 4 other guys, and they said, "Oh, we liked your comedy, but are you the scriptwriter?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." Did you write Barbara Dekho? I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "He wrote Barbara Dekho, everyone." And he was a big Punjabi guy with, there were 2 Audis waiting outside. I don't know what he does for a living, Tommy. I mean, you know that part of India better than I do. But I was like, I'm not going to tell this guy I'm not going to his house. So, and it was a lovely evening. They gave parathes, and it was superb. But uh, so sometimes it's quite scary to tell
Yeah,
people.
but sorry, what's it? You go back to this guy's house. He shows you off in front of his friends, like, "Oh, look, I got this guy who wrote Barbara Dekho," and then what? You're paraded around and you're fed.
So his wife and kids are there, right? And they don't seem that interested because they're like, they've just bought this short, little, fat
Yeah.
stranger, middle-aged man to our house.
Yeah.
And I go
Dad,
there, they're like,
Dad
"Are
brought
these
home
guys
another
on?"
Bengali man. Dad, again, Mom, Dad's at the door with another Bengali man. Oh, God, not
This
again.
is the 17th of the month. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just a fetish.
Put him in the loft with the others. Go
Yeah.
on. Stick him.
Yeah.
they're all writing
I open
away.
the door. All my cousins are up there. One guy's a poet.
Anuvab!
Which is me. We have fed tandoori chicken through the. So this guy goes, "Hey, he's a writer," and his family was like, "What the hell? We're just having a." I mean, they didn't say it to me, but that was the vibe. Like, we're just a regular night. Why'd you bring home a stranger?
Yeah.
And they're like, "Tell my family, tell the whole story." The family hadn't even seen the film, and he's like, "What kind of whiskey do you want?" And it was lovely, but it was a kidnap. I felt it was a slight molestation, was what it was.
Yeah. It's forced love. What whiskey you want? No, I'm good, bro. I'm good. You're having whiskey. Now, which one do you want? You're like, yeah, it's like it's hard. It's hard to just say no to, and you know what? Punjabi women are just as strong and forceful. They're like, it's their way or no way. That's why I feel like I'm a big guy, but I can't hold my own. I'm much more comfortable, much happier sitting on a train with someone like you and Atif Nawaz, and we have a nice gentle chat, and it's people wait for other people to finish their sentence. That's nice. Yeah, because Punjabi people don't do that. Straight in, bang, interruptions.
I don't think I had an option because he did say, I said, no, I'm in this hotel, so around the corner, I finished the gig, I'll just go back. He said, no. You're coming to my house. Like, it's like that. So it wasn't like it's that Indian thing, like, what hotel? I know that hotel. I'll buy that hotel. It was a bit of that. So I was like, okay. So just saying what I do, Tommy, has got me into trouble. That's why I love this virtual podcast, chatting with you, because if anybody wants their money back, they can't come out of YouTube and grab me. So
no, you go like, oh, my internet's breaking up. Leave link. There you go. I'm out. You're away. So you think about. I always think about you with your stand up is. It's strange because where I feel like I'm a British Asian and I talk like this, I look like this, I was raised here. I think you're a British Asian, but from over there. Britain very much is in you, in your humor, in your observations, and I think you like it here as well, don't you? You enjoy life here, London, England.
There's one thing I love about your people and sort of an ethic that you guys have.
You can't say your people. That's one of them phrases. Your people. Well, I don't know which people are you referring to when you say my people.
British people.
Okay.
Because Tommy, I see you as like a British entertainer, and of course you have strong Indian roots, but inherently there's a lovely sort of British sense of humor that you have. And the reason I love that, and I love the humor here, is one very simple thing, that it's okay to make fun of yourself and people don't think less of you. One thing that I find in a new growing economy for a country that was poor for a long time and is just coming into money is you do not make fun of yourself. It's very American, right? You always, it's always, how was the show? It's great. How are you? I was great. It's that. Whereas I can come off stage, talk to you, and you're like, how did I feel? And I was like, that was shit, wasn't it? It was just rubbish, wasn't it? And then you're like, that was really good. It's like, no, it was quite shit. And you tell me, oh, that's the worst night I had, and people were just losing their minds or whatever. They were
Yeah.
really enjoying themselves. So that thing that you guys have here of self-deprecation, I really love that, and I think that sort of modesty is kind of missing in India. So that's one big connect that I have. I also love the history, and that you guys are so interested in your past. In India, it's like, for example, you want to find out, okay, this is where I come from in Britain. This is what Britain was in the 70s and 80s. This is where my grandparents go back, and I want to trace that. And you have a love for history in this country, whereas we have so much history in India, but the culture is very move forward, move forward, move forward.
See, okay, let me just get you there, because I think you've hit something really important, and I think that's what holds British Asians back is we're hanging on to the past. So people will still like, it's obviously history is important to know where you're from, you know where you're going, and all of that. It does help you with your perspective of life and how things are all mapping out. But by hanging on to, let's just say, for example, partition or wrongdoings of empire or things like that, by having all that in us, I don't think it's healthy. I compare most things to relationships with my wife, right? If I hang on like she does to arguments from months or weeks or even days ago, that's not healthy. We got to go, look, that happened. We argued or whatever, and we've all moved on. And then obviously those elements in history concern people's ancestors. And so that the average Kevin Smith who's walking down the road here and he's been told, yeah, your grandparents, your ancestors, they were racist against Indians and they did this and they did that. He's going, Maki kita, I'm just Kevin from from around the corner, whatever. So I wonder whether it's better to just go forward. Let's not look back. Or I don't know. What's your take on it?
No. I think that is absolutely the right attitude. But you guys are aware of the past. We've had long sort of conversations where you've sort of talked about just to digress, the sun went away and now
you're eclipsed.
I look like you can't see me, and the sun is. I feel like this podcast is guided by the sun. That we're in Egypt in 2000 BC. Yeah,
aren't we all? We're all guided by the sun, Anuvab. Ultimately,
this is true. Yeah,
yeah. So,
but like we've had long chats on car rides to gigs, Tommy, about India in the 1930s, in Britain in the 1970s, and you're very aware of where you come from. Even the roots of music. We've talked about influences of A.R. Rahman or where Kishore Kumar comes from. And but the fact is that there is a connection, maybe because of your work, because sort of you're a famous DJ and comedian, that you feel like I mean, we can deny these things, but that'll be like me denying that I get into trouble for writing Barbar Dekho. I mean, these are facts. Okay. I mean, we can avoid them, but I don't bring them up in any sort of thing. These are just also facts that maybe you feel like you need to be connected to your roots. Go to an average Indian person, right, today, and if you ask them, tell me a little bit about Kishore Kumar, they're like, who the hell is Kishore Kumar? I listen to Badshah. Tell me a little bit about Gandhi. He was in that film Munna Bhai. So the desire to move forward is so strong that there is almost no connection to the past. I'm not saying you need to remember the empire, but I think what you guys do very well is you look forward, but you are aware of your past. You're aware of the first generation that came here, and we've talked about this, build businesses and what Britain was like then and what it was like for them and where they came from. I'll give you an example. I was doing a show in Bangalore, and I did a little bit about what the British had left behind in India. And this 17-year-old kid who's only seen India after 1991, he's not even seen an India of cows and electricity shortage that I grew up with. He's only seen a reasonably prosperous India. He came up to me and he said, oh, it was so nice of you to give us this show and telling us about the British in India. I didn't know the British were in India. And I said, how do you think we speak English? He said, I don't know, Facebook. So he just assumed that English has always existed in India just as a language of business. And I don't blame him. He's 17. He has no reason to know. He doesn't look at the statues that are outside his house. So that's what I mean by move forward. Is almost no recognition of what the partition or Jallianwala Bagh, or even before that, or what any of these things would have done.
But see, what does that tell you? Well, actually, unless something directly concerns us and our life, like the history doesn't concern that kid's life.
Mm.
They don't care. We don't care. If it's out of mind, out of sight, happened somewhere else, happened in a different time, it's kind of irrelevant. People should just kind of get on. I wonder, this is my broader thing now, I wonder whether this is just mankind kind of just imploding a little bit. We're self-analyzing. We're looking back on ourselves. We're trying to find conditions and isms and things like that for everything that we feel and do. And we're over because almost as a Darwin evolution theory thing, you know, we've done the monkey to human standing human, and now we're developing even more, and we're breaking down the mind, and it's too much. Actually, what we need to do is just carry on, get on. And I think India's got it right. Us treading this water between past and present and future. I don't know if it's helpful.
But I just think that as people, it makes you more self-aware. You know where your roots are. What I find in India today is, okay, you know, what is the hottest thing in the world now? Crypto. What is the hottest thing in the world now? Zoom. We need to get on top of that. You know, so it's 700 million people are under the age of 30, right? So you're automatically going to have, you know, it's just going to feel like a street party uh, after a football match or something. Like the whole country is just young, and they're like, I don't give a shit about what happened 50, 70 years ago. So, but going back to that, I feel very comfortable with in your country when I'm here because of those things, because the artists are self-deprecating, because you do look back and are sort of strongly interested in the history of where you come from, and in some weird ironic way, where the history comes from, the people in that country are not that interested in the history. A lot of the monuments people don't visit. It's in many ways, if you ask me, certain kinds of Indian food are being kept alive in the UK, like you know what Dishoom is doing, for example, with Parsi food. It's a kind of Bombay cafe that's died in Bombay because the children of the Parsis can't keep it up, but it's somehow found a life in Britain. It's a kind of Iranian Indian food. And I see all these people outside Dishoom drinking limbu pani, waiting in line. This is Bombay from 1910, and it's found a life in London.
But is that finding a life? Is it like, oh, look, they're drinking limbu pani from back in 1910? Is it cute, or is it like, oh, please, this is like, it's patronizing. It's like a Disneyland queue. It's no different from that. Because Dishoom, I don't. It's good food, I got to say, right? There's a few of them that are dotted around London and around now the UK. But I don't get it. The hype around it, the cues that are always coming out of Dishoom. And my general theory is, this actually applies to Chinese restaurants more. If I go to a Chinese restaurant and I don't see Chinese people, I'm like, how good's the food going to be? And Dishoom has built itself on employing non-Indian people, everyone who works there. So I'm like, but the food's amazing. So obviously they got the desis where it counts, but not out front. They put the nice Western-looking people up there as well.
So that's the thing, right? The original Irani cafe is a mix of Persian, you know, Zoroastrian, Iranian food with a touch of Bombay food. So it's a kind of ethnic cuisine. So it's reliving some memory from 1920 Bombay, when it was cosmopolitan, when people from Baghdad lived there. It was like Constantinople, like a cool city. And I think young, hip, cool Britons of whatever ethnicity, they're like, oh, let's go drink some limbu pani and just take in a little bit of colonial India. I think that's the vibe, right? But I mean, it's, for me, that is an aspect of Indian food, but so is, you know, the idli dosa, and so is a man selling me tandoori chicken in a hole in the wall where you know that guy has at least 3 murder convictions behind. You know, that is great food as well. You know, I want to go to a dhaba, you know, and so I think it's all diverse. And for me, it's sort of one kind versus, you have to be in a mindset to do a Dishoom, because it's like going to any other posh restaurant. But yeah, I mean, if you're not eating home cooked food, like one thing I really love about the Indian food that you have in your country is it's experimenting with all of this stuff. You know, the dhaba I live across from a dhaba called Mini Punjab. Now he's been making that tandoori chicken for 100 years, right?
What's it like? Is it good? Is it really good? I imagine it's to be good. Please tell me.
I'll just say this, Tommy. Before I moved next to Mini Punjab, I did not have blood pressure medication, and I do now.
That's how good it is. Right.
It's,
Okay.
I mean,
Good.
it's at night when you finish a gig at 1 o'clock in the morning. He's open till 2:30.
Oh.
It's like you could drive up to him as well, and he's got the tandoor outside, and he can give you
Oh.
reshmi tikka or tandoori chicken or whatever you want with naan or romali, and you have that with a coke. Um, I can't think of what else you'd eat at the end of a show, but it's also what my doctor has said will kill you.
Oh.
So
Okay. Right.
yeah,
So
so
are you serious? Are you having to watch what you are you watching yourself right now? Food intake and all that kind of stuff. Are you being all aware and healthy?
yeah, apparently I have kidney stones, so I can't eat rich food.
I'm
But I've been
sorry. Again, apparently they tell me I've not seen the kidney stones myself, Tommy, but they're telling me they're there. I don't believe them, but aren't kidney stones really painful? They're not excruciatingly painful.
they're very painful. They're very painful. They're about as painful as being at a Bollywood party after you've written a flop film.
Yeah, I
It's
know
the
that.
same level of hurt.
Okay.
Um, and when they haven't cleared all your payment, yeah, it's the same
Yeah,
sort of pain.
yeah.
Um, but the thing is, I can't help myself because I have a soft spot. I don't know about you, but I know that a lot of cool people are now vegetarian. A lot of artists have become vegetarian. But if you've seen really good, a tikka masala or a tremendous, tandoori chicken, it's very hard to be like, hell with it, I'll get a couple of kidney stones. It's worth it. Like it's always better to get an operation every few years than to
Yeah.
deny yourself. Midi Punjab, or right next to my house, there's another one called Khane Khas, which is, an even grimier kind of
Wow.
hole in the wall place. They don't even
Okay.
have air conditioning. So, yeah, that stuff will give you some ailment or the other if you live near
But
them.
I just know from my street food experiences is nothing beats it. And when we used to have to go to the Punjab shops and they're bringing aloo tikkis in from the street sellers. My word, that chutney, the spices, the crispiness on the outside of the potato ball, and it's just it's fantastic. They don't do that here. You can't. And we talk about, oh yeah, great curries of Birmingham and the great curries of Southall, or Harrow's got some amazing vegetarian restaurants, and all around the area of Wembley, Willesden. My mouth just filled with water as I was thinking about it. But nothing beats the food back home, and even the simple stuff. When I go to the Punjab and they make a dal and make a sabzi right there and then, it's just better. Surely you see that, you taste it. What is that?
I think it is. Agreed. Also because look, that oil has been boiling for like 15 years. Like the thing they cook it in, it's just a vat of oil. There's that fire has been going for 30 years. That granddad started the fire. It's just the vat of oil. They don't shut it off at night. And it just stuff is being dipped in. You will die of a heart attack, but it is outstanding. Like you I mean, that cooking fire has been going for generations. So it's that vat is made of stone, and that tandoor has that all that stuff for the last 30, 40 years in there. So of course it's going to taste great.
Oh man, it does the job. So what's the plan now? So you're here for how long? You're here in London for when am I going to get to see you again?
I think we're doing some shows. I'm doing 3 or 4 shows as part of Desi Central.
Right.
I think I'm doing Coventry, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and then I go back to India. I've been working on a small little comedy that's set in Bandra West. Actually, funny we were talking about it. It's a little more art house, and it's. I mean, you probably know some of these people, but I've been working with the actress Nandita Das,
Yes.
the director Dibakar Banerjee,
Yes.
and we're hoping for cameos from some other bigger Bollywood people. But basically, it's Veep. It's like Veep, the comedy,
Yeah.
which had that Seinfeld lady in it, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, that kind of story,
Yeah.
about a woman trying to win a local council election, but she's an actress and she thinks that she can act her way into winning a council election. So I'm not
And
sure I was supposed to talk about it, but I think I just have.
we can have it. But you're solo writing that? Is there a team of you on that? There must be.
I'm solo writing it, but typically we collaborate with this wonderful Hindi writer called Gopal Dutt, who's also a wonderful actor who's been in Delhi crime series, in every new Netflix Indian series you can think of. And he's got this great comic tone. So both of us usually write it together. But basically, it's about this woman trying to win in a local election. So we're hoping to get cameos from Salman Khan and various other
Oh,
people
amazing.
who'll do walk-in parts. And yeah, I don't think we've done a comedy where we sort of. And again, I think this is all your British influence, Tommy. I spend months in this country and I get influenced by this kind of comedy where you do a little send up to yourself, to your own
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
which is, I see it here. It's common in your culture that you guys will all get together as British people and make fun of each other and your own scene. And, I mean, you know this. And I take that little bit of thing and take it to India and everyone says, what kind of comedy is this?
Yeah.
So
So what I'm establishing there, so now we know that it's mainly you writing this. So just when we want to complain about it, it's just direct them straight to Anuvab on Instagram. How are you taking it? Where would you like your criticism? Social media or an email? A letter? People don't write letters anymore. Listen, if you're going to complain, make the effort and put in the effort for complaining to Anuvab. Listen, I've got. We could talk all day. I adore you. I don't want this to be your last time on the podcast at all. The reason why I wanted to get you on, and the reason why we've got people like Atif Nawaz on, or Ishan Akbar and other comedians on this podcast, is because my highlight, the reason why I've kind of enjoyed stand-up so much, and I've only been in it a couple of years, is when you're hanging out with comedians. When we hang out in green rooms and backstage or on car journeys, you realize comedians got loads to say, but I just love it. I'm just at the happiest, like just chitter-chatting away. We did a 2.5 hour train journey, and I think I came up for air, that sounds rude, only about 2 or 3 times because I was talking so much. And we were all just, and everyone's
I think we almost came up with a screenplay, somewhere between Birmingham and London.
Mark my words, that's going to happen. I tell you, we came with a great little idea, and we know, and so. But that's where things come from. And when you're relaxed and you're just around the right people, and everyone says, your vibe attracts your tribe and all that kind of stuff. And I think I definitely want you in my tribe forever because I just love the energy, man.
That's very kind, man. I think one of the things, Tommy, that helps is comedians are like actors, write their own material, right? So they always have. Sometimes I think we as a tribe have too much to say that we don't listen to each other enough. I wish we'd listen to each other a little more. But you'll never get a comedian to stop talking. Yeah, that's why not you and me, but that's why so much of our tribe are single, because their partners are like, okay, you keep talking, I'm going.
Yeah, not only keep talking, if they're not talking, they're just thinking about themselves, their next joke, how they came across then. It's so sensitive. It's important to be sensitive, but sometimes you've got to go, like with the Indian mentality, just keep going forward, just keep looking on. And that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to let you crack on now. Thanks, bro, as always. Thanks for making the time. And I will see you on a stage or in a car or on a train very, very soon.
Look, I'm a big fan. It's always a pleasure. I'm always a fan of yours. I've been even before we met. So
yeah, listen, you're a fan. I've got Bar Dekor on DVD box set with the director's cut and the writer's commentary. That's what I've got in the back. It's you. I just listened to you.
My name is Ishan Akbar. I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay, right, yeah, okay. Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you very much. No, a real pleasure. Anuvab Pal. I'll catch up with you soon. Cheers, bro. I heard, genuinely, this is just as a fact, I heard that if you hit subscribe to this podcast now, if you have subscribed on Apple or on Spotify or on JioSaavn or wherever you are listening right now, if you are subscribing and getting that on a regular, which means you get the little notification when the new episode comes out. Fact. This is a fact. Don't tell no one else's. If you hit subscribe, you can eat as many jalebis as you want and you will never put on weight. I know. I don't understand the logic. It makes no sense to me. I mean, how's a podcast relate to the DNA way in which your body breaks down jalebi sugar stuff running through your cell? I don't understand. But what I do know, it's a little cheat to life. So if you like jalebis, then you should hit subscribe to this podcast. Oh, and follow us on social media too. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow us. Eat jalebis. Be happy.